Hey guys, we are back. Hope you're having a great start to 2022. Now today's episode is a bit different. I've brought my sister onto the show and we have a conversation around taking the leap. We look at why we quit our jobs just over a year ago to pursue a more creative career and everything leading up to that moment. This episode is really about being convicted by purpose, and we hope you enjoy it. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still inside of them. Now that's a quote by Henry David Thoreau. Now one thing I do think he got wrong was that he limited it to just men, because I believe that most people are living lives of quiet desperation. So thank you for coming on this podcast episode today, Shekinah. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so happy we're finally doing this after a while of planning.
Yeah, it's been a while coming. We've been talking about this for I think a few months now. But I just wanted to mention that quote because it sort of sets the theme for where I want this episode to go. I truly believe that so many people are living lives, I love the words that he uses, in quiet desperation, whether it's they feel bound by fear or by doubt or just by uncertainty or not sure where to go, and they're not living out what has been put on their life or living out what they've been called to do in life. I wanted to invite you onto the show and just have a chat about your journey and my journey around us taking that leap and stepping out towards the path that we feel we're called to.
Yeah, and going back on that quote, I 100% agree with it, as I really believe that people have some sort of desire or thought or dream that they want to pursue, but get caught up in their ability to do it.
I see that a lot, and I've definitely been there myself. So before we get too far into it, give the listeners a bit of a backstory of you. Who are you? Who is Shekinah Taderera?
Well, I haven't actually had to answer this. So I guess I do modeling. I love sustainable fashion. I'm really, really passionate about identity and purpose. And I do social media and marketing as a job. But really, if I was to describe myself, I just say I am a creative and a sunset lover.
A creative and a sunset lover. Nice. So I know what you do, but a lot of people listening may not. So what do you create?
So I create or try to create a lot of things. Whatever's on my mind, whatever's required for my job, but I really love creating fashion concepts, really weird, wacky, colorful, inspiring photos and videos.
Things that capture people's attention and tell a story.
Definitely all about storytelling.
That's cool. This whole podcast, one of the reasons why I started it is because I believe that stories are so powerful. And, I think that we can tell stories through the work that we create, the photos that we take, the videos that we share and make.
Definitely. I like to pair it with my writing as well, because I want to invoke a feeling, a thought, make it relatable, make it inspiring, or just really authentic.
So speaking of stories, with this episode, I really want to talk about our stories and how we decided to quit our jobs around the same time to pursue a more creative path. So before, that was about, I think, just over a year ago now. Before that though, where were you working? What were you doing?
So I had been working for about 4.5 years in hospitality. So this was during high school, and then after. I've always done photos or styling outside of it, but it's just really had been a hobby. And I was working in a cafe, serving everyone their eggs Benedict.
And caffeine, thank God.
Yes, which I did not drink.
No, I love hospitality workers and we need them. Otherwise...
Appreciate
it. Oh my gosh, myself, I've worked in hospitality for a few years, and it takes a bit of guts, it takes a bit of strength to stay in hospitality. So appreciate every hospitality workers. So around the same time, I was working in hospitality as well. And, I think we've had a couple conversations around that time about how we just felt like we were I think for me personally, anyway, I'll speak for myself, is that I felt like I was just in a bit of a comfort bubble. I was in a bit of a safe space and I was sort of holding myself back. I'd had a couple big, like failures or a couple big things go wrong over the past few years. And in this point in time, I was comfortable. I wasn't worried about finances as such. I wasn't worried about a lot of different things. And it made me complacent, where there were these dreams and these things that I was passionate about and that I was like really had on my heart to do. And I'd sort of pushed them to the side and was just inside this bubble.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I was at a stage in life where I knew that I wanted to do something more, and I had already started modeling, but I just didn't really know how or why, and I was very, very comfortable in doing what I knew best, and there was no risk there. It was very safe. It wasn't until one morning I started dreading going to work and really not finding any enjoyment in what I was doing. And I know from past years and past jobs, when it gets to that point, it's usually because I'm not in alignment with where my purpose is, and I'm not doing something that I'm feeling really proud of.
Yeah, so it sounds like that was a bit of a build up before your turning point where you decided to, make that decision, however it came about for you, to change career, change job. For me, like, I know that I was going to work and there was nothing necessarily wrong with the workplace or the people, but when I was at work, I was thinking about these dreams that I had in my heart and these plans that I had in my heart, and I had all these ideas and things that I wanted to do and things that I wanted to work on. And I just felt like when I was at work, I wanted to work on those things and actually be active in those things. But then when I finished work, I had no motivation, no energy. And a lot of that was my mindset as well. But that for me was like one of the reasons why I needed to make a dramatic change.
Yeah, and I'm very convicted by, especially in jobs, not by money, but by feeling alignment in, is this what I'm meant to be doing? Do I feel fulfilled? So really by fulfillment. And it just got to a point where I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I did know that it was something creative and it was something where I can express myself and grow. And in saying that, it didn't just happen within a week. It was months of feeling this way, feeling very stuck, but knowing that I needed to move, and a few other external factors that really encouraged the decision to take a risk and do something different. How long did it take for you to get to that point of wanting to do something different?
So I believe that I was born a natural risk taker. I believe that most of us were born with the desire with a seed planted inside of us, like a seed of greatness, a seed of purpose, something that's on our lives to do and to fulfill. And I think, as we grow up, we fall over maybe one too many times, and I think that diverts our path, and we sometimes give up, or we surrender to the fears of life, or we surrender to life. So for me, I'd had a few big setbacks in the past few years, and a business that didn't work out, and a few things that decisions that I made that didn't turn out how I wanted them to. And that's sort of what pushed me into this safety net. So the turning point for me, getting out of that, I sort of just got fed up with myself. I just got fed up with where I was at, and there was just this big, a lot of tension, I think, a lot of tension. And at the time, what probably made it a bit more difficult was that, I had a job. There was no real reason for me to leave. And I also was lucky enough or blessed enough to have a lot of other job opportunities come up, potential job opportunities that would have been great as well. But at the time, I sort of had to make a decision. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go in. If I'm really going to pursue this path that I feel like I'm being called down, if I'm going to pursue these dreams and passions that are on my heart, I'm going to go all in. And so that's what I did, with a bit of help and a bit of, encouragement from different people.
I was there when you were writing your letters.
Yeah, I think there's one moment in particular that I remember when you were there. We were in Brisbane, and we were sitting outside a cafe, and I had my laptop open, and I was reading and rereading over my resignation letter, and I just couldn't bring myself to press send. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a long way. I had finished my coffee.
And that was a big moment that stuck with me for a while now, because I think that was one of the pivotal moments, that decision to press send, to be like, you know what, I'm all in, like this is happening now, there's no going back. That was me taking the leap from where I was to where I felt called to be. And it was a leap of faith as well, because like when I say taking the leap, what that looked like for me was quitting a job that I had, where I had regular hours, to pursuing this path where there was no initial guarantee of of work, or of consistent work. And I was sort of building a brand, going to go out and build a brand for myself around what I was passionate about, and a brand that I can build up into a business to help support the dreams and the visions that are on my heart. But there was no guarantee.
Yeah, there's no safety blanket. It really is taking a leap. And I guess it's your drive and what you really want that has to be bigger than your fear of failing or whatever else there is that you're worried about. For me, I am a person who goes through life navigating depression and anxiety. So really, me navigating that is being driven. It's by going through purpose. It's feeling excited and happy, having something to focus on. And I was just not getting that in my cafe job anymore, because it wasn't for me. It was great at a certain time where I found my confidence. I found a lot of friends and was able to communicate and express myself more. But that time was over, and it was now time for a new stage of growth. And I felt it. So at the point, I was like, I needed to have my dream and my passion bigger than the fear of what if, or what will people think.
Yeah. And I think a bit of what you touched on there about, just like navigating anxiety and navigating a few things you had to grow through. I know for me that I've also had to go through my own, and still am, but process of like self-discovery, just intentionally discovering a bit more about me, who I am, what I like to do, what I am passionate about, because that definitely shaped where I went, and when it came to like taking a leap into a creative career or a creative field, because I'm like, you know what, these are my values, this is who I am, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I like doing. And knowing that, having a bit of a foundation in those areas helped me build the brand that I'm now building.
Yeah, well, it really also was a commitment to myself in exploring and giving myself a chance, taking a chance on what I feel deeply about. And I didn't even really know what it was. I knew it would surround possibly fashion, hopefully modeling, hopefully styling. At that point, I never thought that I was a social media person. I didn't think I could make a profile look pretty or really understand anything about Instagram. And here I am now doing those things. And if I didn't take that moment to just be like, you know what, I don't know, but I need to find out, then it would have never happened.
Yeah, it really is a step of faith, a leap of faith. If you could go back and give yourself some advice before quitting hospitality and pursuing a more creative path, what would it be?
Do it sooner. Do it sooner. But honestly, I do believe things happen in time and there's a natural process. But I probably would, there was a lot of mornings that was really hard to get out of bed because I just felt very purposeless and it wasn't very great. So I wish that I would have known that you can do this. You have the ability, you are not stuck, and life is about experiences.
Yeah, and I think I am just so grateful for like where we live and what we have access to, because we live in Australia, first of all.
Yeah.
And then like we live in Queensland, which is amazing. But we just have access to so much. And especially in this day and age with the internet, with the amount of information and resources we have at our fingertips. Like, most of us, not all of us, but most of us have the ability to get up and change where we're going if we're not happy with where we are, to get up and try something different, to get up and, you know, have a go at different things and figure out where we're meant to be or what we're meant to be doing. Like, I know that's not the case for everyone, but a good majority of us have the ability to do that, whatever that looks like for us. And I'm so passionate about just the fact that I believe we should be proactive over reactive. You know, like instead of being reactive and just reacting to everything that happens to us, being proactive about building the life that we want to live, and the life that we want to see. You know, which many times before I've struggled to get out of bed and just felt like periods of time where I felt a bit purposeless myself and felt like, you know, I'm not sure where I'm going or what I'm doing, and that's natural. But allowing ourselves to stay in that place and not doing anything about it and acting like we're powerless, like, we have all the power. We have the ability to change that, to change the direction that we're going in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've got to give time for those moments and be like, okay, what is my body and mind telling me? What am I lacking in right now? But if it's ability, there is no lack, because you can learn, you can go do internships, you can go sit around people who know about things and listen to them. And really, living in the 21st century and being here in Australia, we have multiple resources and support. And if it's about ability, there's nothing really stopping you. It's just I think what scares a lot of people is it's not easy. You've got to commit, you've got to be consistent. I spent 2 to 3 months unemployed, constantly looking for jobs, applying for only jobs that I wanted. I did marketing, assistance, whatever, and I had to just keep doing it.
Yeah. And we were talking about purpose just before, and I think for me, one of the big things that I can't avoid to mention is that my faith has played a big part in defining what I feel called to do, and the purpose that I feel I'm here for is. Like, the more that I've, I guess, developed my faith, the more convicted by purpose I am. Convicted by purpose I am. And that also very much drives what I do and gives me that faith, gives me that courage to take the leap. Okay, knowing that, you know what, I believe this is what I'm here and this is what I'm called to do. And if it's not meant to happen, it won't happen.
Exactly. And I think also it's that conviction which drives us through the tough times. And it's like, okay, I am willing to suffer for this because I believe in it. And you are just that driven. You're okay to sacrifice a few things because you got to sacrifice comfort and certainty. Like, you don't know when or how, but you just have this really faith that it's going to happen. And I share that same sort of sense of purpose that I am here for a reason. And if it's on my mind or I'm dreaming about it, then it's meant to be.
Yeah, there's this quote that I have in a few different places, and I can't remember who it's by, but it goes like this: are you going to be defined by a vision of the future or by the memories of the past? And then I've got another one that I've written down. It says, if you live in a familiar past, you are going to create a predictable future. And I think too often we just sort of allow ourselves to live in a state of anxiety or a state of stress where we're just constantly living, we're living in the past, and we're, you know, whether it's living in this state of fear from failures or things that have happened before, or the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future. And we allow that to drive our life. We allow fear to drive our life instead of that conviction, instead of that conviction of our purpose to drive our life, instead of faith.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel like, oh no, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. And that's the point. Like, I believe in the next 15 years, I'll be doing something completely different. Like, I have dreams of going in politics, education, psychology, but I know for now, I'm going to do what's before me, and that's something creative that makes my heart sing and makes me feel good about myself. And I'm going by that. So I'm not trying to figure out what is the whole purpose of my life. It's mostly, what do I want to do right now? What sparks joy and hope and makes me feel fulfilled?
Yeah, I love that. And what you said as well about doing what's in front of me. There's two things that just come to mind at the moment. One is that, just doing what's in front of us well. Like that's the best starting point for wherever we are, even if it's working in hospitality and we don't want to be there, or if it's working in a job where we don't feel like that's where we're supposed to be, just doing whatever we're doing well where we are. And the second thing is, if you're not sure what your purpose is, or you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing, the biggest thing that you can do is find a way to help somebody else. Find a way to serve somebody else. Find a way to, put the focus on how you can make a difference in someone else's life. And I think that is probably one of the best starting points, and one of the most selfless starting points we can have, as we're figuring out, what we as an individual are called to do, or what we feel passionate about, or what we want to spend the rest of our life doing. So, after, quitting hospitality, how did you feel? Like, what happened next? Like, what were you feeling?
Well, it kind of, I had some external factors. So it was a little bit of a rushed and non-planned moment. But to be honest, if that situation that I was in didn't happen, I would not have quit. Or I may have, but it would be probably another 6 months down the track. So I always find that something usually big happens for me to finally be like, yeah, I'm finished, before I actually do it, because it's really hard for me to say no, and I hate disappointing people, but I'm so glad and grateful that it ended in me leaving that job, because it opened me up to a whole new avenue of different possibilities. But before I got to that positive and very bright and hopeful part, I felt so scared. It was like we were going on that road trip to go see family. I was like, what did I do? I'm gonna have to I actually thought I'll probably have to get another, like a night job. I was just scared. And I remember thinking, okay, right now you just need to put yourself first and just relax and just be a little bit more clearer, because obviously you were not feeling good in that job. So maybe you will go back to a job like that, but right now you need to be more clearer. And once I was, then I was like, became a little bit more comfortable with the fact of, okay, I'm ready to pursue something different.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
And what about you? Other than the cafe moment.
Yeah, no, so after sending off that resignation letter, like, honestly, the amount of relief I had, like, just the pressure and the stress that left my shoulders was massive. In one hand, because I'd been thinking about the decision for quite a bit, but in the second hand, because I just felt so free to just step forward into all these things that I just like felt so passionate about. I think free.
Yeah.
Freedom was a big part of it. Like, obviously what I'm doing now and what I've decided to do, I think I'm working a lot harder than I've ever have been, and like putting in more hours, but I'm building something that I'm passionate about. I'm building something that I feel has meaning and is making a positive difference. And those all seem like cliche keywords of the century, which they probably are, but they're also, at the moment, the best words I can use to describe how I feel about it.
Yeah. And I feel also you pick your pros and cons. If your focus is to make money, I'm sure you'd be happy working in a hospitality job or another job where you'll make a certain amount of money. But if you are focused and your values are on passion, on purpose, or on just fulfillment or exploring, then it makes it so much more worthwhile. For me, it was giving myself a chance to discover my own talents and abilities.
Yeah.
I needed to prove it to myself that there's a little nudge in my heart, in my head, that I could do it. And I could do it for the people around me, for our siblings, to see that if you have a dream, you can do it. It takes steps, small steps, big steps.
I had a dream
but
that.
yeah, and dreams like can turn into reality, but it does look, I have learned that it can look different, because in my head I was going to be doing something completely different. I think studying graphic design, freelancing graphic design, and I would hate to do that right now. I like creating reels for people. I love taking content, so it's quite different. But
So I'm not going to ask you to design my next logo. Cool.
Listen, Shekinah a year ago would have loved it. She would have jumped on, but no.
So now that, you know, you've had a bit of time working in a more of a creative field, and you sort of are a bit more in touch with, I guess, where you want to go and what you want to do, what would you say your dream job is now?
Oh, my dream job? That would probably be modelling in London and doing identity courses.
London. Oh, I can't do the accent. I was going to try doing an accent.
Would you like a cup of tea? I will definitely, when this happens, because it will happen in its own time, I will definitely be adopting an English accent, because I think it's awesome.
Ha.
What is that? You've got to be like, do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I mean? No.
Any of my English friends are laughing. They're like, oh my God, she wishes.
If anyone who's listening can do a really good English accent, please film yourself, put it on Instagram stories, and tag For the Creatives Podcast. Because I can't.
But you know what? Anyone who would do it is probably better than you.
Yeah.
I knew I was bad.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think the biggest lesson I had in all of that, with the extreme emotions, the frustration and confusion, is probably do follow growth. Follow what is going to enhance what you're doing. So for me, when it was in hospitality, I was doing my best with it. Like, I started fine dining work when I was 17, and I wrote down in a notebook after going to work all the things I learned, because I was just adamant on being the best I could then. And then when I moved from that to cafe, and then I took the leap then to move to the city, it was the same thing, okay, to what's in front of me. So I feel like when you know that, okay, my time here is done, and you have that sort of sense, then that's also a great indication.
Yeah. I think, you know, we touched on it before, but just repeating it, like doing what's in front of us well. And I think that's wherever we are is probably can't hurt until we know the next step that we're going to take.
And I truly believe that next step comes to you.
And sometimes it comes from you quitting your job with no guarantee of work. Other times people might take a bit of a smarter path.
No, honestly, that's more exciting.
Like, looking back, I'm like, you know, there are a few things I could have done on the side while I was still working and still had consistent income. There are a few things I could have built up on the side and then taken the leap. But for me, I think, you know, I mentioned it before, it was a big mindset thing, and I was sort of locked in this cycle, and I needed to break out of it. And for me, I needed that dramatic change.
And the things you learn from it are so great. Like, there are gonna be amazing leaps that we're still to take. And we're gonna carry that ability and that knowledge of, I don't know what, but this is what I'm gonna do about it.
Yeah.
And one thing I carry with me now in almost anything I do is life is too short. And especially when you are, like, for me, I'm a young adult, I don't have kids, I don't really have many big responsibilities. So now is the time for me to take those risks. And I really don't want to ever feel complacent, feel like I'm stuck somewhere, especially in a place that I don't feel passionate about and I don't feel fulfilled by. So I always tell myself life is about experiencing, learning, and being present And during that, we are also not limited to what we see around us.
That's so good. So, we're going to do another episode sometime soon, sharing a bit of the darker details, a bit of the messier side to stepping out in your own creative path and what that looks like and the toll it can take sometimes. And we're probably also going to do another episode around the practical side of taking that leap or pursuing a creative career, a creative job, and some actual tips, tangible tips that we can help people. But for today, I just want to say, are we going to be defined by a vision of the future or by memories of the past? Are we going to let fear call the shots or faith call the shots? Right now is the moment that you and I have, today, this moment. And it's the best time to choose faith over fear. Now, you may not need to take the same leap or to take the same steps that I did, but there's probably somewhere in your life that you're letting fear hold you back. Now's the moment to choose faith over fear. Dream big, believe big, start small. You've got this.
And when you take that leap, just know going off that ledge is a victory in itself, and you learn so much along the way.
And that is a wrap on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hey, if you've got a story about a leap that you took to pursue a creative career or a creative path, hit us up. The podcast Instagram is @ForTheCreativespodcast, or my Instagram is @ElishaTad. Both will be in the bio below. Send us a DM, let us know, and who knows, might be able to make an episode out of it.